What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Shark Shed channel. Thank you so much for being patient with us as we have taken a little bit of a break from all of our activities with the Shark Shed. As most of you all know, I started building a shed a while back, and this is where this channel started. I've got other projects that I'm gonna be working on, but over the last few months, actually, I think the last video I put out was sometime in September. We've just had a lot of things going on. Number one, as some of you know, I had a knee replacement, and so that kind of put me out at the beginning of November. And leading up to that, we have other things that we were working on outside with the lawn channel. And so that really kind of put me out of being able to edit some of these videos. And to be quite frank with you, I thought I was going to be editing a lot more videos while I was taking a break from my recovery from my surgery. And unfortunately, painkillers are just one of those things that don't let you be very productive, especially at the dosages that I was taking. This was probably one of the harder recoveries that I've ever had to do. I've had several surgeries for other sports injuries that I've had in the past, and this one definitely was probably the hardest one to recover from. That being said, I wanted to get back into the swing of things, and this next video is actually about how we did some of the organization for the shed. After this video, we only have a couple more videos that we're going to be doing for the shed. We've got other projects that we want to be working on, including these shelves that you see behind me. Did that right before we went out for our little surgery break and for the holidays, and I want to share how we put that together, but that's for a future video. But for now, I just wanted to do a quick intro, welcome you guys back to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more videos going forward. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to comment down below, and we'll talk to you as soon as this video is over. We start off by clearing out the shed over here on the right side, which is where I'm going to put these shelves. And then we went through and measured the height of the sill of that window, which is the height that I wanted the top shelf. I actually have two shelves that are gonna go in here. We went through and made sure that I measured off the vertical studs measuring the top of where that shelf is gonna go. I ended up cutting 3 different studs here, but I only really needed 2 because the one on the right, when you face the shelf, is actually gonna be the door frame is where we're going to attach it. And as you can see, I went in here and grabbed another one. One of the things that you'll notice is it's really become hard to cut with this blade, and that's because I was using the same blade to do my siding, which is cement board, and pretty much wiped out that blade. Then I came in here and I laid out the 3 studs, which I ended up using 2, like I said, and then I cut the horizontal pieces that are going to come out from the wall of the shed and actually set up the top of both the top and the bottom shelf that we're putting in here. Cut these all out, got them all cut to about 17.5 inches, which is how far the door is from that back wall. And then I went in and measured to make sure that it measured the same height as where that sill plate is, because that's where I wanted the height of the top one to be. Took my nailer, dropped in a couple of nails there, did the same thing with the vertical pieces, and that's pretty much it. Those nails pretty much held everything together. And then on the right side, I only needed that one piece and didn't need the vertical piece at all. From here, I took the 2x4s and I cut. You can see how it's burning that wood. It's just terrible because the blade was so dull. But these are the pieces that are actually going across the front. I didn't show you guys how I attached it, but just trust me, it's attaching across the front of all of those. And that made sure that the width was exactly where it needed to be according to the back studs and the front. We now take a 4x8 sheet of plywood. This is 1/4 inch finished plywood, and I cut the first shelf, which is the front shelf, made sure that that was the right width that comes off of the back wall. And then I used that same sheet of plywood and was able to reuse it for me to cut the bottom shelf. Did the same thing, just ran it through my table saw and put that fence up against it, made sure everything was the right depth. Then I flipped everything 90 degrees and cut the length of the shelf on the table saw. Probably could have done this with just a regular circular saw, but this is probably the best way to go. And you can see how bad these blades are from all the stuff that I'd used before. I ended up replacing all those blades. So now I lay this out, and as you can see, it's actually lining up. The one thing I have to do is cut out all of these studs, and I also have to cut out where it's going to go into this window. So it's going to be a little bit of a slot, because that's all those sill will be matching up to that top of that shelf. So I marked these off with my framing square, went all the way across, made sure I got all of the studs out of there. And then I did the same thing with the bottom shelf. And everything's gonna go 3.5 inches because that's exactly the depth of the studs, and that slot is gonna be 3.5 inches all the way across, and it'll just slide right in. The bottom shelf is a little bit different because I have to cut out the studs both on the back and on the front, but it doesn't have the big long slot for the window because there's no window down there. So I took my table saw and I went through and just cut out all of the slots, went 3.5 inches, have everything marked with the table saw. That was probably the easiest way for me to do everything. You can see that this is where the slot of the window is because it's got that nice long piece. And then all the studs right there are going across. And then I went and did the same thing for the bottom shelf and made sure that I cut all the studs out there. So from here I made sure I cut everything out, and then I cut this big slot out by just plunging my circular saw into the slot for me to cut that nice big piece out, and then everything fit pretty snugly. I was pretty impressed with the measurements. Took my multi-tool to cut out all of the stud slots. Just went real carefully and just cut everything out, and everything fit pretty snugly. I wanted it to be real tight, but obviously gotta be careful so it's not too tight. Then I did the same thing for the bottom shelf, and on this one, as you can tell, I got to cut out both the front and the back studs to make everything fit properly. Just gotta take your time and everything fit properly. Now on this one, you can see here on the bottom shelf, I put this one in first, just give me a little bit more maneuverability for me to get everything in. And then I went through and made sure that everything fit nice and tight. And you can see here, it's almost too tight, but I was just real careful because I didn't want to break it. So I had to take my multi-tool to do some final little adjustments to make sure everything fit properly, and it just slid right in. And then I just pat everything down, make sure that there was no spots that were off, and then I just dropped a crap ton of finish nails in there to make sure it doesn't move. Now this is gonna move with the shed throughout the season, so make sure I put in enough nails in there, but I didn't glue it so that it would have a little bit of room to expand and contract. And then I did the same thing with the top. Just made sure I put in plenty of nails all the way across to make sure it doesn't move. And finally I got to the good stuff, which is actually moving all of my stuff out of my garage into there. Start off with my bag goods. Most of these bag goods were used during the spring for the grass. And then I went through with all my chemicals and made sure that I pulled those out. And one of the things I wanted to do was make sure I was using only garden stuff in the shed. Everything else stayed in the garage. So if it was paint or anything like that, it stayed in the garage. But all my garden chemicals came with me and went into the shed. And then the one thing I did keep out of there was gasoline. I do not have gasoline in the shed just for safety reasons. Just made me feel better. Probably would have been fine, but just made me feel better to not have it in there. In the time it took me to do all this, I've probably moved this stuff around a couple times, so it looks very different now. But you know, for this first try, just to get everything in there, it was pretty well organized, and then I adjusted it from there. All right, folks, so that's all I've got for you. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. It really was pretty easy project. It only took me about a day for me to put together. There was quite a few things that had to go on as far as like clearing things out and just thinking about how things were gonna lay out. But I think we've got a pretty good solution, and so far up until this point, we've had that organization in place for the last several months. I really like the way things are situated in there, and we will continue to use that for the long term. We've got a couple more videos for this shark shed build. We've got to paint it, and we also have to build a ramp on the front. We'll be doing some other things with landscaping, but that may be over on the Lawn Shark channel. We'll do that in the spring. Check back with us in the next couple days. We'll start putting those videos out. And with that, I hope you guys have a really great week and Happy New Year, and we will see you guys soon. Have a great week, everybody.